Hello, Jaden Animation's boyfriend here, and man, fuck, I just figured out like the biggest like mind fuck. Like one of my friends told me, Conker, like we were hanging out in New Year's, right? I asked him if he knew who like Jaden Animations was, and he's like, yeah, man, I've seen those, Rule 34, porno ads of Jaden Animations, and I'm like, what? I know like there was like Rule 34 of her, but I didn't know like people use that and put that in like porno advertisements. That's fucking crazy. Like even David in the chat the other day, he was like, I saw Rule 34 Jaden Animations on 4chan and it reminded me of Mix. That's what he said. So it's like, damn man, like this fucking Rule 34 Jaden shit, it's like really picking up steam. If there was like a meme market, right? Where you can like invest in memes, I would fucking invest in Rule 34 Jaden Animations. It's gonna fucking blow up. It's funny how like, when I was talking to Conqueror about it, it's funny how like the first thing that comes to mind is, Rule 34, like rather than her content. So what else has been popping lately? Lamar roasting Franklin from GTA 5, but instead of Lamar, it's, whatever character you want it to be. Nigga! Probably my favorite one is the Snow White one, like even though, it wasn't really a roast. So yeah, that meme has been like really blowing up lately. Like if there was like a meme calendar, the Lamar roasting Franklin meme would be, on January. I've noticed that some people, they're afraid of saying nigga. Like when they're doing the Lamar roasting Franklin meme. Like usually they'll replace it with, some other two-syllable word. In the Vegeta one, he was like, Saiyan. Which I guess I understand because of the political climate we're in right now. Like, because like saying nigga or nigger or like any of the variants of nigga, depending on like, who you are, some people can get away with it, some people can't. But if you're like a YouTuber who has, a good reputation and like a reputation of being, I guess, the moral compass of YouTube, people will have, higher standards for you. So if you say nigga, there's a very high chance that someone would, quote unquote, cancel you. Like, people would cancel you for fucking anything nowadays. Which is funny because I'd like to think that most people are like, gunning for freedom of speech and all that. But it's like, they don't fucking care. They only care if, their freedom of speech is affected. But as for me, I care about this freedom of speech for everyone, even with people that I don't agree with. And like, I hear this a lot, right? Where people are like, the people who like advocate for freedom of speech are just 14-year-olds who want to say nigger. Well, yeah, that's literally the fucking definition of freedom of speech, regardless if it's, some 14-year-old trying to be edgy. Like, the people who say that, it literally proves my point. You literally only care about, freedom of speech if it affects you. You don't care about, the freedom of speech of that 14-year-old trying to be edgy. But you know what? I think I found the cure to racism. Not that I would want to, because I actually think racism is actually pretty based, but I think I have the cure for racism. Old white people. Now hear me out, okay? I was watching this episode of A Current Affair. For those of you who don't know, it's like an Australian news channel, I guess. Okay, it's like Drama Alert, but instead of reporting, stories on YouTubers, they're reporting stories of people in, fucking Western Sydney. Or just Australia in general. Like, I know some of the episodes take place in Melbourne, but a lot of the episodes, they talk about Western Sydney. So, there was this episode of this Indian guy, I think he's Indian, and he had, like, cameras, all over his property for security purposes. But then his neighbors got pissed off because they thought that he was using the cameras to, like spy on them, but he wasn't. So then the neighbors start harassing this guy like non-stop until, eventually A Current Affair got involved. So the interviewer guy, he was interviewing one of the pissed off neighbors, and then the neighbor was like, oh yeah, he's a nigger, or something along those lines, right? But obviously, it got censored. The reason why I'm bringing this moment up is the reaction of the reporter. Now keep in mind, the news reporter guy, he's like, some old white guy. And when he heard the pissed off neighbor guy, say nigger, the reporter was like, oh. Like, the moment, like, the neighbor said nigger, you can, like, see how uncomfortable, like, this old white dude felt. He was like, oh, Like the body language, his facial expression, everything. I'll try and find it, but if I do, I'll put the video in the description with the timestamp with the, reporter's reaction. Okay, so I just found the video and he actually said black cunt and not like nigger, but I think it still stands, right? I think it still has the same effect because the phrase black cunt and the phrase nigger, what these two phrases have in common is it's directed at race. So he didn't say nigger, but the point still stands. I fucking found it. This is the cure to racism. Fucking uncomfortable old people, just expressing how uncomfortable that word made him feel, even though he's not black. I would feel so fucking bad. So my advice for people, going on these riots for Black Lives Matter, you're doing this all wrong. You need an old white guy by your side. So like when a cop beats up like a black person, get your chosen old man that you have chosen for this task, make him watch that and he'll go, oh, like you will make the police officer feel so fucking guilty, he'll probably quit his job. Old white people, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah. Oh man, I was walking home the other day, and this guy that I went to primary school with, he was in this car, and he shouted my name from his car. He was like, Robert, and I turned around and I recognized him. It was a pretty brief interaction, but an interaction that I welcome nonetheless. It's just one of those sitcom moments. Well, even though I call everything a sitcom moment, I always say my life is a sitcom, but I could stub my toe and say that my life is a sitcom. But I think when I say this, what I'm really trying to do is, just appreciate the small moments in life. Even if it's an interaction where, someone from our primary school recognized me, as they're driving, their car. He was actually at the primary school reunion too. Because back in 2019, in October, I went to, this primary school reunion and he was there. And he was there with one of my hangouts with Busboy. I haven't hung out with Busboy in fucking ages. But in one of our hangouts, that guy was also there. And I remember Busboy telling me that if I were to ever talk about him in a video, you should give him the nickname of Marlin. And I'm like, why Marlin? And he was like, Marlin from Finding Nemo. And I'm like, alright. If for some reason I talk about this guy, I'll give him the nickname of Marlin. So in honor of Boss Boy, that's what I'm gonna do. So yes, this is a new character. This is the equivalent of when a new champion gets released in League of Legends. Well, even though I think, MOBAs are kind of for faggots, but, there's more lore now. I actually have Marlin on Facebook, but we don't actually talk. I would say I'm friendly with him, but I wouldn't say we're friends, just friendly, because we don't hang out. What have we been talking about in the chat? I like how, if I can't think of anything to talk about, I'll just look through the Discord and see what we've been talking about. These guys are fucking free content for me. Fucking Portality is free content for me. It's like a Chad pumping and dumping a Void, right? That's pretty much what I do whenever I have Port on my channel. I'm milking Port for all the content. I cracked my knuckles by accident because I was making a rinsing motion with my hands, even though I don't have the camera on. But I'm rinsing and milking all the content that I possibly can milk from Port. He's literally free content. I have a lot of chemistry with Port. I enjoy talking to him a lot. He's a fucking podcast machine. His only purpose in life is to appear in podcasts. That's what he was made for. Because he's not a human, he's actually a robot made in a laboratory. And the scientists that were making him were like, we are going to make the perfect podcast machine. And that's how Port was born. I was talking about how much I love Grown Ups 1 and 2. The Adam Sandler movies. At the time when I was talking about it in the chat room, I had just finished watching Grown Ups 1 and 2. I've seen it already beforehand, years ago, but I was really bored and I decided to rewatch it. So the moment that I finished watching both of those movies, I went into the chat room and I'm like, damn, these movies are really fucking good. Which is really weird because apparently most people actually hate this movie. Well, movies, but it's why? It's so... Man, they should really come out with a Grown Ups 3. I would watch that for sure. If they made a Grown Ups 3, then it'd be the perfect trilogy. Well, Port says it's shit, but who cares what Port thinks? Even though that song wasn't, made for Grown Ups specifically, I will forever, associate that song with Grown Ups. Hot Chocolate, everyone's a winner. Like, to me, that song is the Grown Ups theme song. So, yes, please watch that. Really fucking good, those movies. Anyway, thank you for watching my gay video. It's over. And a happy new year. Fuck, it's 2021 already. I remember saying this last year in an older video. I was like, damn, it's already 2020. Man, it's really weird seeing, oh, this video was uploaded in 2021. That's fucking trippy, man.